Have you ever stared up at the night sky and thought, will I ever get to go up there? For pretty much all of human history, that dream was only for a handful of astronauts and billionaires. The cost of a ticket to see the Earth's curve has been, well, astronomical, but that's all about to change. Seriously. The next 10 years are on track to revolutionize space travel more than the last 50 put together. In this video, we're laying out the financial roadmap for space tourism over the next decade. We're not talking about vague promises. We're getting into specific projected price points and the years you can expect to see them. We'll break down the expected costs for everything from quick trips to the edge of space to life-changing orbital voyages. We'll compare the companies in the race to make it happen and try to pinpoint the year a trip to the stars might finally be in reach for more than just the ultra-wealthy. Now, to figure out where we're headed, we have to know where we are right now in late 2025. The space tourism market is officially open for business, valued at over $1 billion. But it's a business with two very different and very expensive options, suborbital and orbital. Let's start with suborbital. Think of this as the quick trip to space. Companies like Virgin Galactic and Blue Origin offer flights that take you right to the edge of the atmosphere. You get to experience a few minutes of pure weightlessness and see our planet against the pitch black of space before gliding back to Earth. The whole thing, from takeoff to landing, is about 90 minutes. Virgin Galactic has been a huge name in the game after initially selling tickets for $250,000. The price shot up to $450,000 as flights became a reality. Now, in a surprising twist, the company has retired its VSS Unity spaceplane, which had its first commercial flight in June 2023 and its last in June 2024. They are now focused on their next generation Delta-class vehicles set to fly in 2026. While official pricing isn't public, seats were being sold for around $600,000. With the company signaling that future prices will be even higher. It's a classic case of supply and demand. In these early days, with so few seats available, prices can go up just as easily as they go down. And then you have Blue Origin, founded by Jeff Bezos. Their New Shepard rocket provides a similar experience, taking you on a 10-minute flight just past the Kármán line, the official boundary of space. Blue Origin is famously quiet about its ticket prices. The very first seat was auctioned for an eye-watering $28 million, but what people are paying now is a closely guarded secret. Industry insiders believe the price is likely in the same ballpark as Virgin Galactic's. For now, the reality is that a few minutes floating in space will set you back about what it costs to buy a house. But what if you want more than just a taste? What if you want to live in space, even for just a few days? That's orbital tourism, and it's a whole different league. This isn't a quick flight. It's a multi-day journey to a place like the International Space Station, ISS. Right now, the main player here is SpaceX, working with partners like Axiom Space. They use their workhorse Falcon 9 rocket and Dragon capsule to fly private astronauts to the ISS for stays of a week or more. The price tag for this mind-blowing experience? Historically, missions have been priced at around $55 million per seat. Why the huge difference in price? An orbital mission is a whole different beast. It needs a much more powerful rocket to reach orbital velocity, a capsule with life support for days, tricky docking maneuvers with the ISS, and months of intense training for everyone on board. You're not just a passenger, you're a private astronaut. At over $50 million a ticket, it's a club with a very, very exclusive membership. This is the challenge of space tourism in 2025. The dream is real, but the price is a wall for almost everyone. So how do we get from a $500,000 joyride to something people can actually aspire to? The journey starts now between 2025 and 2027. For the suborbital market, it all comes down to one word: scale. Even though Virgin Galactic's new Delta vehicle comes with a higher initial price, that same vehicle is the key to cheaper flights down the road. It's designed for a much faster turnaround, aiming for up to 8 flights per month. Blue Origin is also expected to increase its number of New Shepard flights. This is the first critical step toward affordability, and it's based on a simple idea: economies of scale. Think about the early days of flying. The first planes were expensive and tickets were rare. But as airlines built more planes and flew more routes, the cost per seat started to drop. The same thing is happening with space. Every single launch helps spread out the massive fixed costs of R&D, ground control, and everything else it takes to get off the planet. Some industry forecasts suggest that this increase in flights and competition is exactly what's needed to start bending the cost curve down. Analysts predict that by 2027, we could see suborbital ticket prices fall from their current peaks, possibly getting closer to the $100,000 to $150,000 range. That's still a luxury purchase for sure, but it opens the door from just multi-millionaires to a wider group of successful professionals and serious adventure seekers. And it's not just about the sticker price. This period will likely see new ways to pay for these trips. Space tourism companies are already talking with luxury travel agencies and exploring things like installment plans or even travel subscriptions. Imagine paying off your trip to space over a few years, kind of like a high-end car. These financing options won't change the ticket price itself, but they'll make it feel a lot more achievable. While orbital flights will almost certainly remain in the tens of millions during this time, the suborbital market is where we'll see the first real hints of space travel becoming more democratic. The path is being laid, the rockets are being built, and for the first time, the price is finally starting to move in the right direction. If the late 2020s are about making suborbital flights more accessible, the turn of the decade will be about one thing: a complete and total revolution in the cost of orbital flight. And that revolution has a name: Starship. Developed by SpaceX, Starship is unlike any rocket ever built. It's designed from the ground up to be a fully and rapidly reusable system capable of carrying up to 100 people to orbit and beyond. Its development has been a public spectacle of move fast and break things. As of late 2025, SpaceX has already conducted numerous integrated flight tests, showing incredible progress like successful splashdowns of both the Super Heavy booster and the Starship upper stage. Despite some setbacks, like a prototype booster getting damaged during testing, SpaceX is pushing ahead, with some suggesting the next generation Starship 5-3 could fly as early as 2026. Why is this such a big deal? Because full reusability is the holy grail of spaceflight. Let's go back to that airline analogy. Imagine if, after every single flight, an airline had to throw away the entire airplane. That's how rockets have worked for most of history. SpaceX's Falcon 9 partly changed that by reusing the first stage booster. That's like an airline reusing its engines. Starship aims to reuse the entire vehicle. That's like an airline just needing to refuel the plane and fly it again in a few hours. This is what will absolutely shatter the current cost of going to orbit. Some optimistic industry analysts project that once Starship is flying regularly, it could slash the cost of sending a person to orbit. In the 2028 to 2032 time frame, some projections suggest the price of an orbital seat could plummet from over $55 million to somewhere in the $20 to $25 million range. That's a massive shift. It opens up orbital travel beyond just billionaires to a wider circle of high net worth individuals, corporations, and research groups who couldn't justify $55 million but might just be able to swing $20 million for a once-in-a-generation opportunity. While Starship is changing the orbital game, the suborbital market will keep maturing. With fierce competition and more efficient operations, the price for a suborbital trip is projected to continue falling, potentially landing in the $50,000 to $100,000 range during this period. At that price, a trip to the edge of space becomes less of a lifelong savings goal and more of an ultimate bucket list item for a lot more people. This period, from 2028 to 2032, is where the future we've all been promised really starts to take shape, all driven by a technological leap that will fundamentally change our relationship with the sky. Looking out even further to 2033 and beyond, the trends we're seeing now really start to build on each other, leading to prices that sound like science fiction today. This is the decade where space tourism could finally go from being an ultra-exclusive adventure to a recognizable, if still high-end, part of the luxury travel industry. The main driver is still technology. especially Starship. As SpaceX masters the art of rapid reuse, potentially flying hundreds of missions a year, the cost per seat just keeps dropping. Some highly optimistic speculative forecasts from industry analysts suggest that by 2035, an orbital flight on Starship could cost under $2 million per person. Let that sink in. A trip to orbit the Earth for days, an experience that cost over $55 million in 2025, could be 95% cheaper just 10 years later. Some aggressive predictions even put a ticket in the sub $10 million range in the early 2030s. At prices like that, everything changes. This isn't just about tourism anymore. It's about the birth of entirely new industries like commercial space stations. The International Space Station is scheduled to be retired and deorbited around 2030 or 2031. Taking its place will be a new generation of private stations from companies like Axiom Space, Blue Origin, and Sierra Space. Cheaper rides on Starship are what make these destinations commercially viable. Suddenly, the idea of a space hotel with luxury suites and giant viewing windows goes from a cool concept to a real business plan. Meanwhile, the suborbital market should be fully mature. With multiple companies flying regularly and a solid safety record, analysts predict the price could realistically fall into the $10,000 to $25,000 range. That's still a lot of money, but it's on par with a luxury cruise, a first-class trip around the world, or a high-end safari. It becomes what one space entrepreneur called more and more like going to Europe, a special, expensive trip, but one that a good number of people could actually save up for. The entire market is projected to skyrocket in value. One forecast predicts it will grow from around $1.2 billion in 2024 to over $28 billion by 2033. This growth is a feedback loop. Lower costs create more demand, which justifies more flights and new destinations, which in turn lowers costs even further. Now, it's important to sprinkle a little reality on all this amazing optimism. This 2035 timeline isn't a sure thing. It's a possible future, but only if some pretty big hurdles get cleared. First, the tech. Building fully reusable rockets is one of the hardest engineering puzzles ever. Development is incredibly risky, and spectacular failures are just part of the process. An incident like the one that damaged a Starship booster prototype during ground testing in 2025 is a sharp reminder that timelines can and often do slip. And most importantly, these vehicles have to be proven to be incredibly safe. Second, the rules and regulations. Government agencies like the FAA are still writing the rule book for commercial human spaceflight. As we go from a few flights a year to potentially hundreds, we'll need a solid system for space traffic control, safety standards, and liability. That's a slow, complicated process that could easily delay launch schedules. Third, there's the destination gap. The ISS, our only home in orbit for over 2 decades, is set to be retired around 2030. The new commercial space stations have to be designed, funded, built, and launched before the ISS is brought down to avoid a gap in humanity's continuous presence in space. It's a race against the clock. Finally, there are environmental worries. The effect of hundreds of rocket launches on the upper atmosphere is something scientists are still studying. The industry will have to get ahead of these concerns and prove it can operate sustainably for the long haul. These are all major challenges, but they aren't impossible to solve. They are the growing pains of an incredible new industry. So when can you actually go to space? Let's break it down based on these projections. If you're a successful professional, a quick suborbital trip to the edge of space could be on your radar in the late 2020s, with some analysts seeing prices dip toward $100,000. If you're dreaming bigger of an orbital vacation where you spend days watching the world spin below, the mid-2030-50s is your target. That's when the Starship revolution could bring prices into a range that, while maybe still the cost of a luxury car, is no longer just for billionaires. The journey from science fiction to a vacation destination is happening as we speak. It's a story of brilliant engineering, intense competition, and that deep human desire to see what's over the horizon. The road ahead is long and full of challenges, but for the first time in our history, the destination is finally coming into view. What do you think is the biggest hurdle for the future of space tourism? Is it the technology, the cost, or something else? Let us know in the comments below. And if you found this look into the future of travel as exciting as we did, be sure to hit that like button and subscribe for more deep dives into the tech that's shaping our world. Thanks for watching.